It's the wrestling O-head, bruv. Yeah, I got done watching Collision, and a thought had occurred to me with Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson's interaction backstage, where Will Ospreay was telling Bryan Danielson, bruv, I had nothing to do with your attack. I want you at 100%. Now, that is an important part of the story that needed about 2 more weeks to come to a head. And that's what I'm talking about. That was an interesting story, and they could have expounded on that if they would have done it 2 weeks ago. And I'm not faulting AEW for this. This is not a knock on them, but it's just a thought that it's like with this story arc with Will Ospreay, obviously he is in a group with a bunch of assholes, including Don Callis, and he's realizing that maybe he himself is not an asshole, and that is fine. But what is missing from that storyline is narration. That story requires narration, and we haven't got it from commentators. We have not gotten it from Bryan Danielson or Will Ospreay. We have kind of been subtly given this story that we ourselves had to extract and find, as if we were watching professional wrestling promotion that was not in a language we understood, like watching New Japan Pro Wrestling and having to figure out where the story is going or what lies when there's no American commentators. That's where I feel like this Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson story is stemming from. It's stemming from a storyline arc that we have to do some digging and find out ourselves, and that requires a lot of commitment. And maybe that is what AEW is predicated on, is building a fan base that dedicates their entire life to the product, and they throw Easter eggs and all this stuff in there. And maybe that's not even the storyline with Will Ospreay, but that was something that I thought of when I was watching that backstage footage. Maybe Will Ospreay is realizing he's not such a bad guy after all. Maybe the idea of him coming to America, the thought of his stepkid and his wife, fiance, it's all starting to realize that family's important, and he's realizing things are much more important than this idea of just being a cocky, brash young guy. And he's realizing all of that. And at the same time, he's coming to these conclusions on his life. He's now facing a legend in Bryan Danielson. So maybe he's closing the chapter on a-hole Will Ospreay and opening a chapter to something completely new. But we don't have the narration in that, and that could be useful for casual viewers. That could be useful for regular viewers to get emotionally invested in the rise of the new Will Ospreay. Billy Bird, Billy Badass. So that's something that I looked at and I thought would be interesting. It needed 2 more weeks. It was a very well done backstage of Bryan Danielson questioning whether or not Will Ospreay is really who he is saying he is, or his intentions aren't really to win by any means. It reminded me a lot of Tatanka and Lex Luger's storyline they had in the 90s, where Tatanka felt that Lex Luger had joined the $1 Million Corporation, and Luger was saying he didn't, and it came out that it was actually Tatanka that, I think it was that Luger in the, I believe that was Luger. But yeah, it reminded me of that story arc a lot, and I wish they would have expounded on that a little bit more. It would have been awesome, but here we are, and we are within hours away from AEW Dynasty. Are you excited? Are you ready for that? Coming to you live from St. Louis, Missouri. If you would be so kind, check out my predictions for that. Let's see how well we do after watching the show Collision. I would say that I do believe Chris Jericho is now going to win against Hook. And I don't know if Taz is going to get involved, but I just have this sneaking suspicion that Hook is going to drop the title at Dynasty to continue this program. And I also believe now that the Acclaimed are going to win, which really just makes me question Jay White. I mean, where's he at right now? The guy was top free agent signing and now he's on the 0 Hour, and he's going to be losing his 6-man tag titles. I just don't get it. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. This is the Wrestling Old Head. You've opened the portal. You have entered the vortex. Wrestling fans, stay tuned.